All right, hello everyone. So we'll get cracking into our last webinar for the year, Reclaiming Your Time, sort of targeted at all you busy people out there that are trying to get some time back in your day. So my name is Shana and I'm going to be the moderator. Oh shit, we'll start again. Hi everyone. So welcome to the last webinar for the year, Reclaiming Your Time. So this is for all you busy people out there who are trying to get some more time back in your day to do some other important things. So my name's Shana, I'm going to be moderating the webinar today. So I'll be managing any questions that you guys have, and I'll just make sure that everything runs smoothly for us today, because we've got a few videos and bits and pieces to do with you. So if you haven't used Zoom before, and you probably have by now, but down the bottom is all your settings there. So the bottom left for the audio settings, if you're having problems with your speakers or your microphones. Down the bottom, you've also got the Q&A button. So if you have any questions throughout the whole webinar, just fire them through that Q&A and we will we'll come to them at the end. We'll answer all the questions at the end of the webinar. And then when it does come time to leave, or if you need to shoot away early, just that leave meeting button down the bottom as well. And our panelist today who's going to be running our webinar for us is Greg Verhoef, our primary here at Greg Verhoef Chartered Accountant. Lots of experience and also another very busy person who is working on reclaiming his time as well. So thank you, Greg.
No worries. Just like to thank everyone for joining us today. The upstairs there is some building work going on, and I was hoping we might get half an hour now without any noise, but I hear he's back. Just hear him tapping on his hammer. If it all turns to custard and the drills come out, we might have to have a hastily end, I suppose, and redo this. Anyway, we'll see how we get on. So yeah, reclaiming your time. This time of year is absolutely mad. Business is busy, orders are coming in, customers want things done quickly. You've got your own personal life to deal with, family coming up, family holidays, family Christmas, all those things. And it just seems like a crazy point of year, but it's also a very productive time, and we actually get a lot done in the month of December. It's one of our more productive months. But anyway, reclaiming your time. The irony is not lost on me that if you have already made it as far as listening into this webinar, then you are most of the way there to doing something about reclaiming your time. And that's the thing, is that the ones who would benefit most from this are possibly the people who aren't here today, because they're just far too busy to make that time in their day to actually learn or sharpen their skills and become better at managing their time. So anyway, this clip will go out on YouTube, and we will no doubt have other people that will come in and watch it in their own time. Okay, agenda. No, thoughts for the day for start. Either run the day or the day runs you. So it just sort of reflects on the theme of today's presentation. So it's nice we thought that, if you don't take control of your plans, then you end up running around putting out fires all day and you don't actually get what you wanted done. Just also my normal sort of disclaimer, this is a presentation that is educational in content. Please don't take it as advice, and always get proper legal or accounting advice before you go ahead and do something that could end up being costly. Agenda for the day. We'll start off with a little bit of trying to explain a bit why we always become so busy. We look at some mindsets, the different types of mindsets, ways of thinking about how you might deal with your time. Identify where time might be wasted. We look at 5 practical ways to free up some spare time. Well, we've got a chat about what you might do with some time, and then what the next steps would be. I'm hoping it's sort of half an hour to 35 minutes at the most. This is our first run through, so you never quite know, but we'll push through. Right.
Shall we do the questions there?
Oh, right. Yes,
yep.
We were going to do just a wee. This is a Menti.
This is a Menti poll.
Right.
So what we're going to do is we're going to get you guys to, if you jump onto Mentimeter, or up the top here, www.menti.com, and chuck in this code here. And what you can do is you can, let's see if I can fire that out to you guys. You can answer a question there. How do you feel when under time pressure? Because I know that everyone, everyone's been under pressure before. So how do you guys react? How do you feel when you're under pressure? And I'll chuck that link in the chat there for you all. Hopefully that will get you to the right place.
Oh, that's good. So if they just click on that link in the chat box, that'll take them straight there, and just throw me some answers. Let's see what people have got out there. I hope some of our people listening are actually going to it. Okay, yeah. Oh, we've got some stuff coming through. Oh, that's good. It's always nice when you try something new and it works. It's always a bit stressful when you start something out that you haven't done before, and you sort of hope that the technology is going to play its bit. Anyway, so we're irritated, pressured, stressed. How do you feel when under pressure?
How do you feel when you're under pressure, Greg?
Yeah. Short fused. No. Stress is definitely, you feel under pressure, you feel stressed. And you make more mistakes, and you have to correct more stuff, which then takes longer to do. And the whole thing becomes an ever-growing snowball of stress and pressure and delays and procrastination and everything else. So, oh, no, that's good. I've got a whole heap of answers there now. Overwhelmed, tired, helpless. So these are all things that we really want to avoid in our normal day at work. It's if we can plan our day better and adopt some of these mindsets that we've got in this presentation, hopefully we can help eliminate some of these things. No, that's really good. Right, how do we move on, Shana?
Fantastic. Yeah, we'll head on back to the webinar. Oh, wrong one. There we are.
Very good. Okay.
Hang on, we just missed one there. Yep, here we are.
Right, we're always busy. Why are we always busy? So that's quite a complicated sort of question, really. And there's really no single one answer to it. There's actually a whole lot of factors that come into play as to why we tend to always be busy. I think as we become more engaged and successful in our business, we learn more tasks, learn more skills, learn more tasks. And because we can do more, we take on more. And as we learn more, we keep taking on more, and we end up with more and more things that we want to do on our list of tasks because we feel confident that we can do it and we want to get it done right. So, yeah, but just because as we become more able to do more, we take on more. As a business owner, you just have that, you always want to do the best you can for your customers. You want your business to succeed. You want it to do as well as it can do. And therefore you want to have sort of that oversight into everything. You want to be able to keep your fingers on the pulse to everything that's going on in your business. And it's very hard to let go. So as you take on more staff and you even give them delegate some tasks to them, you tend to still want to keep on top of all those things. So when you're on your own, you're busy enough to deal with your own staff. And then when you end up with, say, 5 in your team working for you, and you're trying to keep on top of everything that they're doing, your day becomes just exponentially busy as you add more staff to that. Tasks always tend to take longer than we think. And that's just a natural, we always want things to go smoothly, and we envisage in our mind that this job might be half an hour to do that. ultimately, I think it's been proven quite often that things always take longer than you think. And if you think it's going to take half an hour, it's probably going to take 3/4 of an hour or an hour. So what you might think you can get through in a day is actually, you can never actually achieve that. And then we feel like we're overwhelmed because we didn't achieve what we thought we could achieve. And that just comes down to things that always do take longer. And we get that also from like our clients think, oh, that's just a half-hour job to do that. But nothing's a half-hour job. It always takes longer than you think. As we become busier, we tend to become less efficient. We get less efficient, means things are not done as quickly or as processed as well as they could. We make more mistakes from being busy, therefore we have to redo stuff more often, and that adds to more inefficiency, and we just sort of go around a big circle of getting busier and busier, redoing stuff and not being done correctly, and that becomes an efficient use of our time. Distractions. There are distractions all around us, from phone calls, from texts, from emails, from people that walk in the door, clients that walk in the door, staff that want to handle something, all sorts of things. Those things come into our day and they distract us all day long. And it's very easy to drop everything to deal with those distractions. But that means that also the tasks that we're trying to get done don't tend to get done. Next one on there was perceptions. So the story with this one in this example here is that when we started at school and we had a bit of homework, we felt busy, and you might have done half an hour's homework and you felt busy. And then you went to university and you had great big assignments that took whole weeks or evenings or days to put together, and you felt busier than you were when you were at school, but you didn't realise that was going to cause to get busier. And then as you get older again and you get into business or a career or so on, it just consumes every moment that you've got, and you're even busier again than when you were at university than when you were at school. So it's all about perception. There's busy and successful. That is sort of a trap, I suppose, that people, if we're not busy, then therefore we are quiet, and therefore we're not successful. But we all know that that's not really correct. But we all tend to fall into that trap saying that we're always busy. Someone asks, how are you doing? Oh, I'm busy, because you don't want to say, look, I've got nothing to do for the day. It's just not what we say. And we use busy as an excuse. We use it to procrastinate. We use it to put off things we don't want to do because they're things we don't enjoy doing. So we're always busy doing other things that are slightly better to do than the stuff we don't like doing. Right. So, Stephen Covey, hopefully you have all heard of him. I read one of his earlier books, was called First Thing First. And if you haven't read The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, then The First Things First is not a bad read either. But he wrote First Things First, and it's only about half the size of the big blue book, which is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And he covers a lot of the same stuff, just in a shorter context, in a shorter book. So if you don't want to read great big long story books, then grab the First Things First one. And we're just going to look at the first 3 habits that he identified in his book, because they fit nicely in with trying to use our time wisely. So the very first one there is being proactive. So that's making choices through in your time, making choices to be proactive, to do something about the issue that you have. So you first got to acknowledge, I suppose, if you have an issue, but then proactively find or seek out ways to try and do something about that. All right. If we don't ever try to improve, if we don't try to be proactive about improving, then we're never going to make any changes. So the first thing is to be proactive and do something about your busyness. So by being here today, that would be considered to be proactive. You're taking an interest on trying to do something to improve your skills, and that's that first step ticked off. Now, the second theory of Stephen Covey was to begin with the end in mind. So begin with the end in mind is to have some values and a framework by which you make decisions about, so that you know that your decisions fit with inside your framework work. And the third one was to put first things first. So set your priorities that focus on avoid wasting your time. And the story I think he talks about, I think it's Stephen Covey, or it might be some other author I read, was the scientist with the glass jar, and he fills the jar up with water and then turns to the classroom and says, "Is the jar full?" Sorry, wrong way around. He puts some big rocks in the jar so that the jar is full, and turns to the classroom and says, is the jar full? And the class, of course, goes, yes, the jar's full of rocks. And then he gets some sand and he pours it in, and it filters down between all the rocks. And then he turns to the class and says, is it full? And they go, oh, of course it is. And then he gets a glass of water and he pours it down into the sand, and it soaks up into the sand. All right, so put first things first, put the big rocks in place first, the big important stuff in first, and then fit the other less important stuff around it, and then the lesser or minor items around that again. So putting first things first. And first things doesn't always mean all your business stuff too. It's your private life as well. If it's going to the gym, if it's spending time with family, those important parts of your life need to be in there as well. Okay. The or-bid model. Ownership, accountability, responsibility is all above the line behaviour, and below the line behaviour is blame, excuses, and denial. So this is part of our mindset. We want to think about this particular mindset card today in the context of using our time and setting our focus on how we control that time. So being proactive about how we use our time and focusing that time on tasks that are have the greatest impact, and those tasks that help us improve are all about ownership, accountability, and responsibility. If we constantly blame ourselves for not having enough time, we make excuses for not getting jobs done, that's the sort of the below the line behaviour. And what we want to focus on is making decisions that fit with that above the line type behaviour of that or-bid model. So just a wee bit of text here. Stephen Covey's second habit of highly effective people also ties into this or-bid model. The habit is called starting with the end in mind. It's about thinking about how you'd like people to describe you at a funeral. Without getting too morbid, can you start by being the person you are now? By being too morbid, you can start by being the person now. Stay above the line and stay above the line on this, and stay firm with your time management so you can be that person. So this is about thinking about the type of person you want to be and staying above the line with your actions and your decision making to get you to that person that you want to be. Right. Another mindset. Okay, habits. Forming good habits help us make good decisions, help us better prioritise our time and achieve better results. So habits, they break down into 2 or 3 things. And the first one here is a cue. So something that comes along that triggers a response. So maybe that is a email message that comes in, and that would be our cue. We have a curious nature, I suppose, to always investigate something when it happens. So when we see an email come through, we have this sort of craving to find out what it's about. And that also comes back to this sort of dopamine hits we get from instant sort of gratification from dealing with something or seeing something. So that craving drives us to open the email and have a look. We open the email and we then see it's a client who's asking a question, and we go, oh, look, I can answer that, it's just a 10-minute question. So 10 minutes later, you bash out the answer, you flip the answer back to the client, and your reward is that, hey, I've dealt with that, I've dealt with that question. And then, of course, the next thing we do is we look at the next email and we start again, and we go through answering that email. And before long, we've spent 2 hours just answering emails for the day. And the task that we were working on when we got interrupted by that queue has completely gone out the window, and we've forgotten about what we were actually trying to achieve. So one of the habits we can do is to try and change that queue, that very first point that comes through. If we can change that queue, then we don't get distracted into the bad habit. So if we turn off our email when we're trying to achieve a task, then the queue will not pop up. And in fact, we're then also replacing that queue with the task that we're trying to do, or our list of jobs for the day becomes our queue of what we want to get done. And we then become focused on wanting to get those lists of tasks done, or that task done. We achieve the task, and our reward is at the end of the day, we've achieved what we wanted to achieve. So we can't ignore all our email and our cell phones and messaging that we get all day long, but if we can minimize some of those cues and focus them in on a shorter period of the day that we set aside for dealing with those things, then we can actually get more of the important stuff done that we want to get done during the day. All right. Next mindset. Now, again, this is straight out of 7 Habits again, the Achiever Matrix, which breaks tasks down into 4 different quadrants. And we can see up the top here, we've got our urgent. This is the fires that need to be put out, the pressing problems, the stuff that has to be done by a deadline. And on the right-hand side, we've got quadrant 2, which is our quality work, but it's not urgent. Okay, and we have our quadrant 3, which is our urgent but not important stuff. Interruptions, phone calls, pressing matters, popular activities, some emails, some reports, some meetings. And we have our quadrant of waste, which is non-urgent and not important, which is the stuff that just chews up time, and we can minimize this stuff so we can spend more time in the other 3 quadrants. What we really want to do is we want to spend more time in quadrant 2. That's the quality one of non-urgent but important tasks. The time that we spend there doing some planning, some prevention, some preparation pays dividends in that we don't end up spending so much time over in this quadrant 1 having to deal with the fires. If we can plan better, structure our work, structure our business, do better delegation, start structuring our team, then making everything else in the business more efficient means we don't have to run around and put out fires all day long, and we can actually focus more on the quadrant 2 and quadrant 3 and achieve more with our time. All right. Mindset. Number 3, number 4. I lost track. This one is about the productivity pyramid, and it works through, it's quite a good wee mindset. And I've actually got a presentation from Mark Jenkins, and he explains it far better than I do. So I'm just going to run his presentation, and it goes for about 2 or 3 minutes, and then we'll just come back to me after that. Hope you guys can hear that.
Productivity pyramid shows us how we can achieve better leverage in our business. which is all about working smarter, not harder. And of course, we've all heard that cliche, you've got to work smarter, not harder. There's some practical ways that you can achieve that leverage. So first up, we have time. And of course,
Sorry, Tim, hang on.
pyramid, that's wider, so there's more time needed to spend at the bottom of the pyramid. And as we work our way up the pyramid, the return on that time invested, the return increases and the amount of time reduces. So that's what it is. So right at the start, we just need to get better at what it is that we're doing. We need to improve. And so to improve, we're going to make sure that we attend lots of courses, workshops and seminars. We're going to do lots of reading, additional study, continuing professional development. So in this case, let's use an example, say a chiropractor just starting out a business. So she's set up her business and she's ready to go, and she's making sure that she gets better at what she's doing by attending lots of courses and seminars and events and doing lots of reading at night as well. So achieving a degree of mastery. And then she can move up to the next stage where she can increase the number of people that she has doing the work in her chiropractor business. And so they might be on a contract basis, or it might be outsourced. Unlikely they'll be employees, but of course that is a way that you can increase in your own business. In this case, it's more likely that this would be a contracted chiropractor in some sort of profit share arrangement of these to be generated by that person. And that, of course, has freed up the first chiropractor to look at the next stage of the pyramid. So she can look to invest in some technologies, maybe some software or some systems to improve the efficiency. Because the first way to achieve leverage is simply to have more people doing the same work. The second way to achieve leverage is to use better systems. And so systems certainly increase our efficiency. So some systems might be around booking, they might be booking appointments, they might be about the reminder service, they might be around the billing system or the management reporting system. And then because that efficiency is working really well and the second chiropractor or perhaps the third one's in place, then our first chiropractor is ready to invent perhaps some of her own IP or systems or procedures. And they might be around how she started up the business, what were the steps that she took, what did she do about her insurances, what did she do about getting a business plan together. So a bit of a step-by-step guide and some policies and procedures that she's adopted that she could license for other people to use. So there could be other chiropractors who are starting off in business that would learn from her and subscribe to those systems or procedures or that software. So now the chiropractor is getting a return without having to do so much work herself, not so much of the hands-on work at the bottom of the pyramid. And then it might be that the last stage is that innovation. So because this chiropractor has come up with new systems and new technologies, she could end up speaking at conferences or events and getting paid to do that. And certainly that's going to attract more people in to use her system and to use her software. So she doesn't necessarily need to spend as much time hands-on anymore because she's just working on better things. She's mastered her trade, also her profession, but she's freed herself up to work at that top of the pyramid. So right up here, she's getting the highest possible return with the lowest time investment. So that's what we should all be looking to do. How can we get to the top of that pyramid, starting at the bottom, not skipping any steps along the way, but making sure that we are always looking for opportunities for ourselves and our clients to achieve that better leverage and practically be able to work smarter right now.
You back to where are we?
Very good. So yeah, I think Mark just explained that so well and probably better than I could have, nice and cleanly. But yeah, basically, improve, increase, which is get more people to do what you're doing, invest, invest in technology to scale, invent, be creative, create more systems, and then innovate, work on better things. So that's very good. All right. Stop working with the wrong people. Strategy number 2. this is really about just creating a good environment to work in, I guess. People with poor attitudes, different values, difficult personalities, people who are unreliable, people who make issues out of nothing. They consume our time, and they consume lots of time over sometimes quite trivial stuff. They pull our mind away from what we're doing, and this really is just about trying to remove those sorts of people from your workplace. When we talk about our customers, and there's that 80-20 rule that we derive 80% of our value from 20% of our customers. We don't need those customers that are difficult, that cause us grief. When we're looking at our staff, we want to set good values for our own business, and that when we go to employ staff, we want to make sure that staff fit a good fit with those values as well, so that we're not, we're all on that same page and trying to do the same thing. You want to join sort of networks, business networks of other good people who all work together and give as much as they take from you. So you're all sort of sharing your time. So this is about just working with the right people and getting rid of those ones who consume your time for very little benefit out of it. Strategy 3, running better meetings. Now, I've done lots of meetings, and sometimes they feel like an absolute waste of time. But if a meeting is run well and run efficiently, it can be very beneficial to everyone who attends that meeting. So some simple little rules with any meeting. Try and set a time limit. Try and stick to a time frame and try and keep to it. Don't let it get too waffly and into stuff that's not on the agenda. Ask for people who have got things to present to the meeting that they send out their reports before the meeting, so that people have had a chance to have a look at it, to think about the questions that they want to ask, and that everyone's prepared for the meeting. Have a regular rhythm, so just a routine for your meetings, and that fits very much also with having an agenda. So everyone knows the order of the meeting, we're going to arrive there, there's an expectation that everyone is on time, we're going to look at the notes from last meeting, we're then going to talk about sales, we're going to talk about staffing issues, we're going to talk about internal operational issues, and then we're going to wrap it up and go back to our job. Nice clear agendas so everyone knows this is the process and how we're going to get through there. You should be focusing on actions, not getting into big long lengthy debates about rights and wrong and who did this and who should have done that. It's about the outcome that we want to achieve and the actions that we need to do to get there. Actions need to be assigned to someone to carry out with a defined time frame as to when it's going to be done by. And accountability is someone coming along with the big stick and saying, has everyone done their actions? And making sure that things are being carried out as people said they would do. So some nice simple strategies there for running better meetings, but you can get a lot out of meetings if it's done properly. Right, strategy number 4, 10 hats. So in pretty much every business, we talk about these 10 hats. Even a single owner, sole operator, sole trader, single shareholder director company, there are typically these 10 hats. And it's very much how many of these hats are you wearing. So above this line here, we have what we call our strategic side of things. And these are our shareholders, who are the people that invest the money in the business and provide the funding for the business in the hope of getting a return on that funding, of course. And the directors are the people appointed by the shareholders to responsible for running the company. So this is very much our strategic thinking side, and our directors set our strategic plan and our strategic direction. And then below the line, or the operational side, we have our operational side of things. And a very important part there is leadership, that there is a clear leader. There is someone who is in charge, in control, who makes the decisions when things get tough, and negotiates the business in the direction that it should be heading to meet the strategic directions that the directors have set. Typically should be one person. Very hard to have a business with multiple leaders. Someone has to be ultimately responsible for that. And then under the leadership, we have all these different sort of categories. So we have product service development and operations or delivery, sort of similar, but still quite different sectors of the same thing. Our marketing, which is getting the leads or the sales in the door, and the sales, which actually turns those leads into sales. Our finance is our business finance. That's the balance sheet, the money, the keeping track of the invoicing, the debtors, and all those things. Business administration technology is to do with operational efficiency and trying to make the business operate efficient. And human resources is dealing with our staff, looking after staffing matters, staffing issues, employment contracts, leave, staff disputes, all those sorts of things. So it's quite a lot of hats to be wearing for a small business. And often from time, we see a lot of small businesses where there is just that one owner who has all of those hats on, which then all chew up some time and take the focus away from the leadership or the product service delivery, and they're busy dealing with HR and finance and administration and so on. Okay, so you sort of think about what sort of hats you're wearing and what sort of hats could you take off and give to someone else that you could delegate to either an employee or a contractor. A lot of these things can be sort of contracted out. The likes of marketing could be sent out to a marketing team. Finance, of course, as an accounting firm, we can do lots of finance type roles. And as far as administration stuff too. Human resources, there are firms out there that will help manage the human resources side of businesses. All right. Benefits of a 10-hat organisational review. So we actually do have a sort of can be between 2 hours and a half day sort of workshop that we can run. And we have a whole lot of material that we can sit down with you and work through and sort of help clarify those roles, help to improve the delegation and personal development of your team and your staff, create sort of organisational structures and diagrams to help understand the structure of businesses, and identify areas where there's gaps in your skill set or the business's skill set, and what opportunities there might be to outsell some of those hats or fill some of those gaps with people from outside the business. Yeah. Right, delegation. Strategy number 5 to free up some time. How to delegate effectively. So delegation is it's a real skill. It's not just a here, can you look after that for me? There's actually a lot to be quite a bit involved with trying to delegate something effectively and well. So I've got a few steps here, but just delegation. Help me out here, Shannon. Abdicating, of course, is where you assign a task to someone and forget about it. You don't give them very clear information, but normally the job doesn't get done very well, and then you get grumpy because it hasn't been done. Delegation is really what you need to practice, and there's a whole lot of things you can do to do that well. So first thing is to assess the task. Look at what it is that you're delegating, and I actually find sitting down and writing out the steps or what it is that you're trying to delegate a really good thing to do, because it helps you put your task into words that hopefully the other person can understand. Having the right person with the right skill set to be able to achieve that task that you're setting them to. If you're trying to delegate something that is quite complex to someone who doesn't have the skills to do that, well, of course, that's a recipe that's always just going to fail anyway. Make sure there's clear lines of support, offer support to that person. If they're not sure what to do, please come back and talk to me. If you're not sure about this, then Sandra over here is an expert of that. She'll help you with that. Make sure there is support for helping that person to get through that delegated task. Communicate the parameters, define what it is that you're expecting, what you're hoping the end result is to be. A good trick is to ask that person you delegated the task to repeat back what it is that you've asked them to do, just so you can check that what you've asked them is the same as what they have picked up. You know, there's two people in a conversation. There's the person talking and the person who's listening. But what the person listening might hear can be quite different to what the person talking thought they said. So it's a good check to make things are being picked up correctly. Articulate the objectives. Yep, define what needs to be done. Important is that when the task is completed, you do actually take the time to just review that outcome, review the task, and make sure it was done the way you would like it done. And if it wasn't quite right, that you give good constructive assistance and feedback on that. You're not pulling the person apart, but you're just sort of saying, look, this, I find if I do it this way, this is a bit quicker, or if I do this, you get this result, or this is what we actually need to do. Good educational, constructive help as part of delegation. All right, we're just about there. So, yeah, we are about there. So, have a breath, take a step back, have a look at your day, plan out the big things first, make sure you fit them in first and then fit the smaller stuff in. We've talked about the 7 habits of effective people, particularly the first 3. That's being proactive about your day, about beginning with the end in mind and doing first things first. We then also had a bit of a chat about the all-bed model, about setting your own internal values and living by your values that are above the line, taking ownership, accountability for your own issues, and not blaming and putting excuses on for not achieving things. We then had a wee look at the creating good habits and about cues, cravings, response and reward, and about trying to take away the cues for the bad habits, so therefore we don't get tempted into those bad habits. If we can change the cues to the things we want to achieve, then that is going to help us achieve better habits. We then went on to, we had a wee look at the achiever matrix, the urgent, important stuff, the non-urgent, important, the not important, non-urgent, and the time wasting 4 different quadrants. We talked earlier about that and how we want to spend the time in the planning, preparation, and prevention. More time in that area means we can spend less time putting out the fires. We then had a look at some strategies, and we had Mark Jenkins talk to us about the productivity pyramid, and I quite like that wee slide that he has there. And we had a bit of a talk about the right people, or stop working with the wrong people and work with the right people. We looked at better meetings, how to improve your meetings, and we had a bit of a chat about the 10 hats and how to think about who's actually wearing all the hats, and how you might delegate some of those hats to someone else, and then a quick run over of some of the delegation principles. All right, what's next? Define the distractions you want to minimise, clarify the habits you wish to create, identify 3 most important actions. Big one here, focus on what you can do, don't get wound up in the things you can't do. And if you need some help, hey, we're here to help too, but there's plenty of other places that can help as well. And how can we help? Like I said, we had that sort of 2-hour or half-day workshop about the 10 hats review. That's something that we can do. Price on that's a little bit difficult to put up on a slide because it does change depending on the size of the business. If you've got a bigger business with a couple million turnover and 10 staff already, then that's going to be more of an involved sort of workshop versus working with someone who's just a sole trader. But it is a nice wee workshop we can pull up. We've got all the material there, the pre-work, the workshop, work through the questions and slides and everything we can do on that. Accountability is something I do just as part of regular meetings with clients, whereby we try and set goals every couple of months and then catch back up to see how we are with achieving those goals. So that's something we can do. That achiever matrix that I showed earlier, happy to send that out if you want a copy of that. And if anyone ever wants to have a cup of coffee and a chat about their business, I'm always more than willing to touch base. Coffee at 10 o'clock in the morning is a great excuse to get out of my business for a wee while, but also a good way to meet new clients. Right. Any questions? Have you had any questions come in?
I'll have a look. If anyone has any questions now, just fire them through. I haven't seen any pop up though.
No, that's good. I think everyone's happy with me just talking lots. But that's good. It's sort of a webinar where there's probably not a lot of questions. But no, thanks for participating. Thanks for coming along and listening in. And the last parting thought of the day from Yoda, no, try not. It's a do or do not. There is no try. And with that, just like to thank everyone for coming along. And we're just on 10 to 5, so good time to knock off, go off home for the day, and get ready for another busy day tomorrow. Thank you for coming.